It's November 3rd, 2023, and these are your headlines. Wow, it seems like in so many ways a million years since we last talked yesterday about what was happening in Austin with the special session. And at this point, with just a few days left in this third special session in Austin, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is turning up his attacks, okay? He's blasting House Speaker Dade Phelan, saying that Phelan has become nothing more than hot air. Ouch. Now, the root of the most recent sparring is border security legislation. So, it's a little bit of background. House Bill 4, this is by Representative David Spiller. This bill would create a criminal penalty for improper reentry from a foreign nation and authorize law enforcement to order them back to Mexico. However, several concerns over the implementation of the measure were raised, leading State Senator Brian Birdwell to substitute in language to overcome those perceived shortcomings in the version that is going to be up in the Senate. That bill is slated to be voted on by the Senate on Sunday evening. The House, however, is standing at ease indefinitely while they wait for the Senate. Patrick criticized the House's version of the legislation yesterday. He said, this is a quote, "The Speaker is desperate to improve his border credentials with conservatives and sent the House version of HB 4 over to the Senate. The bill's author claimed it's the toughest border bill ever, but it is simply a Texas-sized catch-and-release bill." He went on to say the House version of HB 4 does not require proper identification of suspects, fingerprints, or a background check, and allows illegal border crossers to return whenever they want, time and time again. Even if returned to the border, this policy would allow unidentified hardened criminals and terrorists to slip through the cracks and cross the border over and over again. Well, Dade Phelan, he fired back. He put out a statement and he said Dan Patrick's baseless critique of House Bill 4 is a transparent attempt to deflect from his chamber's own impotent response to the growing crisis at our border, a crisis demanding decisive action, not the ineffective strategies being peddled by the Senate. Ooh, that's when Dan Patrick launched perhaps his sharpest critique of Phelan yet. He said, again, this was last night in a post on X, I'm reading here, "Mr. Speaker, you have become nothing more than hot air. You can peddle your nonsense all day, but the truth is your version of HB 4 does not require fingerprints or a background check of anyone detained. That means you don't know who you are sending back to the port of entry." He then reiterated his support for the Senate's approach before turning his aim to Phelan once again. Patrick said, "The Senate has been the leader on border security legislation long before you arrived in the House. I don't pay attention to you anymore, and neither does anyone else. You've become the teacher character from the Peanuts series." You've become a speaker who can impeach someone faster than it takes to smoke a brisket. But you can't pass a big teacher pay raise bill or a school choice bill in 10 months. No one takes you seriously anymore. In case there's any question where Lieutenant Governor Patrick stands on House Speaker Phelan, there you have it. Governor Greg Abbott, meanwhile, has been silent so far as the two chambers have feuded on these special session issues, notably border security and school choice. Remains to be seen whether Abbott will call a fourth special session if his issues do not get addressed. Just this afternoon, Lieutenant Governor Patrick said he spoke with Governor Abbott and urged him to call them back for another special session on February 5th. As border communities continue to struggle amid the ongoing crisis of illegal crossings, two congressmen have sent a letter asking the U.S. House Appropriations Committee to consider additional funding for first responders. Representatives Michael McCall from right here in Texas and Democrat Ruben Gallegos sent a letter Tuesday to House Appropriations Committee Chairwoman Kay Granger, again right here from Texas, retiring, and Ranking Member Rosa DeLauro. The letter requests that any supplemental funding package include funding for critical programs to aid first responders in communities impacted by immigration. The congressman noted the rapid uptick in illegal crossings along the southwest border, sharing the historic number of encounters. Now, last month, we reported that in September alone, the total number of encounters was 269,735, higher than any month before. And as September closed out, The 2023 federal fiscal year, the number of encounters reached a record-breaking 2,475,669, the highest number on record, according to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Lastly, following months of public pressure, Plano Independent School District officials say they will remove dozens of sexually explicit books from campus libraries, another big win for local parents, students, and conservative activists. In an email this week, the district finally responded to parents' request that 67 titles containing graphic sex and other inappropriate content be reconsidered for removal from the library. Plano ISD's Director of Learning Media Services, Julia Briggs, said that the district had applied updated procedures to, quote, all previously challenged titles that were not initially removed from our collections. According to the grassroots group Citizens Defending Freedom, which has been on the front lines of this, they help Plano families raise awareness about the sexual content of books available to students. 64 of the 67 explicit titles in question have been identified now for removal. Parents are happy with the results, but say they should not have needed to spend months publicly pressuring Plano ISD officials to do their job. For more of today's stories, go to TexasScorecard.com.
No ads, no paywalls, no government grants, and no corporate masters. Just real news for real Texans. This is Texas Scorecard.